Hi guys, welcome back. And this time I've got for you the SIMGOT EA500. I was kind of holding out to see if I would receive the full set with all the accessories and everything. But a subscriber of mine wanted me to review the EA500s, and so he kindly sent me his set of EA500s for me to review. So I want to apologize straight away for not having all the accessories, because he just sent me the IEMs themselves. But I'll do my best to try and describe everything as well as I possibly can. Anyway, these are the EA500s. You can see they do justice to what SIMGOT has already kind of or is already kind of getting us used to, which is this impeccable build quality. They are full metal. They've got some serious weight to them, and then it's the small details. You see how the nozzles, they are all, I mean, it is actually exquisite. And the EA500s very much, although they are at the lower end of SIMGOT's price range, they're around the $85 to $90 price bracket. They haven't cut corners with regards to the overall construction. And if you guys remember when I reviewed the EN1000, which is the next model up, I praised it for having probably one of the most exquisite builds that I had seen, and this one follows suit. I mean, it's absolutely perfect. In terms of the fit, it's not a bad fit, although the weight can be somewhat a factor. So you must make sure that the tips you choose are going to be tips which will obviously hold the IM in place. I'm using a graphene cable from KBR, which I very much like. I mean, this graphene cable, in terms of its measured parameters, and I took some time to actually measure the parameters of it, its DCR, capacitance, and inductance, absolute gem. I mean, for the price, I'll place a link on the description. Very nice cable. Let's just leave it at that, because I know this whole cable thing is something which always generates a lot of controversy. Anyway, a little bit more detail about the EA500. This uses a fourth generation 10mm DLC diaphragm. It has two detachable nozzles. I've just received the nozzle which gives us the more HARMAN style curve, the more traditional HARMAN style curve, which is the nozzle which has, you can see the red O-ring, okay, and there's a nozzle which has a black O-ring, which then gives a curve which is more reminiscent of the SIMGOT house sound. And what do I mean by the SIMGOT house sound? Well, target curve we already know. The SIMGOT house sound is a curve which is a more energetic, let's say, HARMAN, and that extra energy comes in that 2 to 3K area. They've boosted that a little bit more, and then they give a little boost as well there at around the 5 to 7 as well. So you get those two boosts. The rest past 10K and up to about 2K, they are very much the same thing. So it will make things a little bit more forward, I would assume, although I cannot 100% say that. Once I do get the complete package, which I have one on the way, I will be able to test it and then can get back to you guys on that one. But basically, with the red nozzle, we have a HARMAN tuned IEM. And yeah, that basically covers it. I mean, in terms of the fit, it's fine. Just the issue with the tips being, having to be carefully chosen due to the weight. Build quality is perfect. The driver that they're using is a very high quality driver, and you feel it straight away. From the moment you listen to it, you can feel it's a high quality driver. On to what we want to know, which is okay. So Acros, how does it sound like? What's the story with the sound? Does it, is it good? Isn't it good? Well, let's put it this way. I've selected 3 IMs which I think are good examples at their specific prices. And funny enough, one of them in particular graphs very similar to the SIMGOT. But as is always, or as is many times the case, graphs are not the full storyteller. I've got the Fiio or Fiio Jade Audio JD7, Olina SE, and the Moondrop Kato, the blue edition. Okay. Olina, we know it's a reference at $100. It's let's say the safest set that you can go for without having to be worried, would you like the sound, won't you like the sound. It's an upgrade over the original Olina, which was perhaps just a little bit over energetic, around 5-6K. The Olina SE has brought that area down slightly, and the rest of the spectrum is basically what the Olina offered. Great technicalities. 3D is absolutely amazing, and just the overall sound is very pleasurable. There was talk that the driver used here was a similar driver of the same family, or maybe even the same driver as the Tanstrom Oxygen. I can say that it's a similar driver. I'm not going to say it's the same driver, but that's irrelevant. What is relevant is that it sounds amazing, and in terms of a good solid $100 or up to $100 single ED, that has been kind of the choice to go for. It plays better than many IMs costing twice the price. Okay. On the right hand side, I've got the Kato, as I mentioned. It's an IM that honestly you either love it or hate it. I personally think the Kato is a very good IM. Again, it's got those interchangeable nozzles as we have here in the SIMGOT, and it just, for me, I've always said this about the Kato, and this is because I like the Aria. This is a more polished, it's a more refined Aria. Does it justify the price increase? In my opinion, I think it does. Everything about the whole IM just screams more quality, more premium, more everything. So I think the $179 price is justified. The Jade Audio is kind of like the unsung hero. It's an IM that not many people have heard of. Not many people have reviewed it, and it's an absolute beast of an IM. It is a more high energy version, let's put it that way, of the Olina SE, but more high energy in the sense that it's a more ballsy sound. It's got kind of that reminiscence of the bass that we got in the Melee, okay, but it's more refined. It's got, in my opinion, it's got all the refinement that you have in the Olina SE, with extra bass, which I personally like, and it just makes it a great alternative. If for some reason you don't want the Olina SE and you want something which is a great alternative and can in many instances even surpass the Olina, the Jade Audio is your go-to. Definitely. It's got this kind of bullet style shape, which can be an issue for some people in terms of fit, something which doesn't happen in the Olina, but hey, it is what it is. It can't be perfect in every aspect. What it does matter in terms of sound, top marks. Okay, so where does this fit in? Well, simple. This is an even higher energy version of the Olina. I actually recall a fellow reviewer mentioning and talking about the EA500, and he mentioned something about it being actually somewhat similar or reminiscent of the MIM Dark Magician, and I can understand what he's saying by that, or at least I think I understand what he was saying by that. But what I can personally say about the EA500 is it's got this It's got this energy which is it's kind of a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and I'll try and explain that better. It's got this energy which at times you think it's too much, and then all of a sudden it surprises you by being able to do a certain playback of certain music with this intensity, but at the same time with this control of that intensity, which is just very unusual. An example that I can give you of that, of what I've just said, is, let me just give you one or two songs. Where Do I Go From Here, from Soul Persona and Princess Frasier. On other IEMs that you hear this, when you crank the volume, and especially when the driver is not of good quality, it's a song that will show very quickly how that IEM can handle and can scale. And personally, myself, with the EA500, that was not an issue. You just crank it and it just keeps on chugging. Another one which I found was again an IEM, a song that the EA500 played very well, was Common Sense. It's a song which has a lot of energy, and again, that energy, then the way that the EA500 is capable of putting forward that energy in a very controlled, very dominant fashion is quite impressive. I'm not going to deny that there were certain songs that perhaps that energy can be a little bit, excessive, or excessive is maybe not the right word, but can be a little bit too much for certain people. Sister by Rochelle Farrell is perhaps one of those songs. There are certain parts of the song where she's singing that this can reach a point where it can kind of be perceived by certain people as aggressive. Myself, I didn't find that, maybe because of my over 50 years of age and over 50 years of years. I didn't perceive it that way. There were, however, one or two songs that, yes, they were just a little bit, it was just a little bit too much, and I could sense that kind of almost sibilant. But the reality is this. At the volume that I was playing, the EA500, I don't think is a volume that most people will listen to it. So under normal volume conditions, I never ever found the EA500 to be too much to handle or anything of the sort. As compared then to these, it's definitely the most energetic out of these. Definitely the most energetic. I'm not going to say that it's better or worse, because it just has a different manner of presenting itself. For example, if I listen to some EDM from a distance, from Calypso the Sir, it has a bass which is more satisfying than the bass of the Olina, but not on the level of the bass of the Jade, and more satisfying as well than the bass of the Kato. So, it's kind of in the mids, and this is because the reality is the mids of the Kato are, for me at least, really, really good. The mids of the Kato always come out on top, and up to a certain volume, yes, the Kato is always in front, but then there's a point there when you really are cranking up the volume that the mids on the EA500, the energy that they have seems effortless, while you start kind of getting the sensation that you're reaching the limit with the Kato. This is a difficult one to actually explain. You would have to listen to it, to the EA500, to actually understand or get a better feeling of what I'm saying. House of Groove from Huge Groove. That's one song that, for example, that exactly happens. At lower volumes, everything is very composed with the Kato. Nothing is out of. But then there's a point there at maybe 60% of volume, and I was using most of the time my NX7. You get the SIMGOT just being able to convey this energy to the sax which is very satisfying, very engaging, and that same volume on the Kato, just it isn't as engaging. It's almost, I'm not going to say straining because that's not the word, but it's almost like if it was straining, but it isn't. It's just the way that the things are presented. So what can I say overall about the SIMGOT EA500? It's a great IM, priced at the value that it's been priced, which is roughly like I said, the $90 range, and you can get this from both Hi-Fi Go and from LINSOUL. The one I've got coming in is from Hi-Fi Go actually. It has very tough competition. I mean, the sub $100 bracket is a very tough bracket to be in and to try and launch and introduce a winning product. But I think that it will find its crowd in those that want an IM capable of high energy reproduction, but done always with a lot of control, a lot of dominance. So it's you could almost say this is an alpha male when it comes to its ability to dominate. It's ultimately okay. You could argue that the Olina will ultimately be more polished. Yes, ultimately it's got better technicalities. Yes, I agree. I mean, the soundstage of the A500 is pretty decent. It's pretty wide. I think the imaging is the better characteristic. The detail retrieval as well is pretty impressive. The detail retrieval on the A500 is pretty impressive. Timbre and tonality, I found them to be correct, but that high energy that it has can sometimes take away a little bit from that correctness. In that department, I think the timbre and tonality of the Jade was the one that satisfied me the most. In the Kato can be sometimes a little bit too clinical, and in the Olina it's fine. It's got good timbre and good tonality as well. And in terms of like the rest of the frequency spectrum, as I was mentioning, bass, it's got really nice bass. Only really the JD7 is surpassing it. The mids, I would go for the mids of the Kato overall, although the mids here are very capable of a high energy or rather a high volume reproduction, and the highs are perhaps the area where it doesn't shine on the same level as the rest of the frequency spectrum. When it comes to the highs of the JD, of the Olina, and of the Kato are just that little extra bit more polished. So yeah, I mean, it's not like there's an overall winner here. It's just another very solid alternative of what is available, like I mentioned, in the sub $100. And yeah, and that's it, guys. All right, I'll just show you the graphs quickly, and I'll see you in the next one. As always, if there's any questions, please feel free to ask, and that's it. Take care. Hey guys, and this is the graph section of the SIMGOT EA500 review. As I mentioned, I do not have the second tip, but this is the excuse me, the tip with the red O-ring, and as you can see, it's very much a HARMAN tune. It's got a very soft roll off from about 45 hertz down, but really this is not really noticeable. It's got enough meat here to more than compensate for that ultimate sub bass loss, which honestly you don't really, at least I didn't really notice it in a significant manner or in any, almost flat by 300 hertz, so it doesn't really bleed. Very gradual pinna gain, peaks at close to 3K, 2.7 more or less, and then plateaus itself, dip, and then extension past 10K. So it's got, as I was saying earlier, the soundstage is fine, but funny enough, it actually does have good 3D. It's a little bit difficult to explain, but anyway, that's the graph of the EA500. This next one that I'm putting now is the Kato, and as you can see, the Kato almost identical in the way that it graphs. Very similar, a little bit more apparent extension there at the low end, a little bit more flat and plateaued across the mids. it's just a little bit more refined overall. Whether that refinement justifies twice the price is something that obviously will depend on you. What you do notice, yes, definitely, is that the SIMGOT is way more energy filled in its presentation. Okay. This next one is the Jade. Let me just take away the cutoff. The Jade, again, very similar overall curve, as you can see. It doesn't have the same extension right at the top, but this doesn't really portray to what you hear. It's actually very, very similar. And if anything, at least it's more laid back, more relaxed, less over energetic, which can be something that some people might not enjoy. What you can definitely see is it's got way more bass, and it's very noticeable, very easy to hear it. And finally, the Chapeau and Olina SE. Again, the curve I think it speaks for itself. So yeah, that's it, guys. I mean, like I said, the SIMGOT EA500 is a very solid IEM, very much like its brother, the 1000. The 1000, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really think it was, and it is a very capable IEM. I actually have the graph here of the 1000 just for the sake of comparison. I can actually just throw it up quickly. That's the 1000. Very similar, as well. As you can see, the 1000 by comparison is just more relaxed to the EA500. The EA500 is a more in your face kind of presentation. And that's it, guys. I mean, I hope, as I said, that I was able to shed some light on what the SIMGOT EA500 is. I definitely will say that it's an alternative in this sub $100 bracket. And if what you want and what you like is a high energy presentation, definitely give this a listen. I'm not going to say to buy it straight away. No, give it a listen if you have the opportunity, because I'm sure you won't be disappointed. Okay, as always, guys, like and subscribe, and any questions, please feel free. Take care. Bye bye.